Support comes from Missouri Forest Products Association, committed to sustainable and sound conservation of the state's forests, which support more than 41,000 Missouri jobs, resulting in a $10 billion industry. ChooseWood.com.
Welcome to St. Louis on the Air. I'm Don Marsh. Today we have a conversation about the state of higher education in general and at the University of Missouri St. Louis in particular. Joining me in studio are UMSL Chancellor Tom George and Kristin Sobolik, the Provost and Executive Vice Chancellor. They were both excited by the news earlier in the day that Professor Emeritus George Smith of the University of Missouri-Columbia had won the Nobel Prize for Chemistry. It was pretty cool, huh? Having a Nobel laureate in the University of Missouri system?
Oh, I'm ecstatic. I mean, that reflects on the whole system. Granted, it is someone retired from the MU campus, but I just couldn't be more delighted about that, and it's great for the whole state of Missouri as well. It just puts us even more on the map.
And of course, it's in your field, which makes it even more pleasant.
Right. I mean, it's the chemistry prize. I would say that George Smith is as much biologist and biochemist as chemist. He kind of covers it all. I mean, it's a remarkable man.
Kristin, maybe you're a good luck charm. You've been here only a year and a half, and we already have a Nobel Prize in the system.
I think that is fantastic news, but I don't think it has anything to do with my being here in the University of Missouri system.
Well, we're delighted to have you here, and good to have you. We'll see you many more times, I'm sure. Tom, let me go back to you, because the last time we talked, it was not a really good conversation in the sense that what we were talking about were cuts and hiring freezes and difficult times for the university. I gather, however, that things are turning around fairly well.
Well, at the time we talked about 3 years ago, we were undergoing some major cuts because our revenues were not matching with our expenditures. And the expenditures were getting a little too large. So we've matched them now. And yes, we have stabilized the budget. And now for the last 2 years, we've actually had a surplus, going into the next fiscal year. What we're working on now is, with a stabilized budget, is growing resources. So we want to get ourselves back to where we were 3 or 4 years ago. We've lost about 1,000 students. We want to get those students back, and there's some other ways that we can help ourselves get the revenue back to where we want it to be.
How do you explain the surplus?
The surplus is good spending, doing efficiencies, making cuts where you have to make cuts. But it's not been because of doing layoffs. I mean, we had to do that 3 years ago. We've not had to do that now. So I'd say it's really prudent expenditures.
And Kristin, you come in at a time when you're really looking ahead. There's a strategic plan out there now, and you're going to be overseeing that, as I understand it. Give us some sense of what that plan will involve.
Yeah, our strategic plan we have moving forward. We're very excited about it. It's good timing. It reflects where we want to be and what we want to do and focus on over the next 5 years. Now, that, of course, focuses on our people and on our students in particular. We have a compact for student success, where we would like to increase not only the number of students that we have on campus, which will help our region as well, but also on their particular success with regards to graduation rates and retention.
How do you achieve it? It's one thing to declare what you want to do and what you want to have done, but how do you achieve it?
I think we keep on the same trajectory that we've been on. We have increased our 6-year graduation rate by 15 points over the last few years, and we've also increased our retention rates for all level of students, including our Pell-eligible students and our underrepresented minorities. So we absolutely need to keep on the same trajectory, but also double down with regards to the things that we've found that have been successful.
Tom, as I understand it, community outreach is a big part of this plan, along with several other components.
Right. In fact, that's one of the compacts, one of the 5 compacts, and that's something that we already do very well, and you know that, Don. Yeah. Not just from interviewing me and Kristin, but all the wealth of people that from around the campus that you interview. But that's part of our charge. We're part of the land-grant university system, and part of that is to be an anchor in our region and to reach out to the community. And I tip my hat to the faculty and staff that do this.
Yeah. Planning over a 5-year period can be difficult at times. How do you go about that?
Well, first of all, you come up with a set of, we would call them actions and goals, but you have to recognize that you need flexibility. I've been through now several strategic plans, either 4 or 5 year plans, and on an annual basis, at least, you look at the goals, you look at how you're doing, and you can make adjustments. So nothing's in stone. Sometimes you have underestimated what you can do. Sometimes you've overestimated. So there will be adjustments as we go along. It is difficult to say 5 years from now this is precisely where we're going to be.
Yeah, you have to be flexible, Kristin. No question, because things can change quite dramatically and quite quickly.
I agree with that, and I think flexibility is absolutely built into our strategic plan to make sure that we are going to be adapting to some of the parameters that we don't understand right now, to the directions that we need to take for our students' success, and to make sure we're reallocating and allocating our resources into areas of growth, strength, and excellence.
How are you going to fill that deficit of 1,000 students? You want more than that, obviously, but how do you go about that?
Well, the main thing is I think it is important for our region that we do that. We're aligning with the regional chamber in their parameters for increasing the number of educated St. Louisans in this area. But we focus on not only recruitment, but specifically on retention to make sure the students that are coming to UMSL actually get the services and the help that they need to stay here. And given that our student population tends to be older and they come from a wide variety of backgrounds, we're about access and success for our students, we need to make sure that we have those support services in place for them so that they can be successful and walk across that stage.
And Tom, the reason the regional chamber is interested in this is because they want those students to stay to become employees, and don't they?
Well, particularly from UMSL, I'll just put a little push in for the University of Missouri St. Louis. Our students do tend to stay here in St. Louis, but I do also want to do a shout out for all of higher education in St. Louis. As the Provost mentioned, this is a collective effort. About 5 or 6 years ago, the regional chamber identified about 400,000 adults, and you can decide how you want to classify what is an adult, but an adult that had partial degrees, if you will. They didn't have the whole 120 credits to get that particular degree, and said collectively, let's work on this, and let's see if we can get that number down. I think it's about 700,000 across the state, but over half are right here in St. Louis, and we are whittling down on that one. And this is all the institutions, public, private, and 2-year as well as 4-year.
That says a lot.
Yes, absolutely.
That's an important number. Yeah. We're going to have to take a break momentarily, but is there anything else about the strategic planning specifically that you want the audience to know before we go in a different direction?
Well, what I like about the strategic plan is it really focuses on what we already do and what we're known for. And basically, we transform lives. And we not only transform the lives of our students, but also the faculty and staff that we have at the university. So it's been a real pleasure to work with that group to put forward our plan for the next 5 years.
Well, it never stops, does it? You're all going to be busy for a good long time to come. Let's take that break now. We'll be back in just a moment to continue our conversation about what's going on at the University of Missouri St. Louis. With me in studio is Tom George, who is the Chancellor, and Kristin Sobolik is the Provost and the Executive Vice Chancellor. Back to continue the conversation. If you'd like to be a part of it, we'd love to hear from you. Give us a call at 382-8255. That's 382-TALK. Send us an email to talk@stlpublicradio.org, or if you would prefer, send us a tweet at STL On Air. This is St. Louis on the Air on St. Louis Public Radio, 90.7 KWMU.
Thank you for listening to this St. Louis on the Air podcast supported by University College at Washington University, with undergraduate and graduate programs part-time, evening, and online. University College at Washington University, offering world-class education within reach.
We have a special announcement today. Just this morning, we rolled out a special Facebook group focused on St. Louis on the Air. If Facebook is your preferred social media platform and St. Louis on the Air your go-to talk show, this new group is a great place for you to join our conversation. Search St. Louis on the Air on Facebook to request membership in the group and get started engaging with other fans of the show as well as with our producers. Now back to Tom George and Kristin Sobolik of the University of Missouri St. Louis. You know, that last item there with regarding our Facebook group, Tom, raises the question in my mind as to what today's digital world is doing to higher education.
Well, it's obviously we have to roll with the times and help lead with the times as well. We're increasing our online instruction, where people are getting their instruction basically facing a computer. But also, if you look at our marketing and communications area, which is the discipline that you're in, that's something that we have to keep up on as well. And we look at different modes, whether it's Facebook, whether it's Twitter, or just electronic communications by internet. But certainly, it's affected higher education. No question about that.
One of the issues major in college life today is being crisis ready, Kristin. Too many stories about violent situations on campus. Where is UMSL in this regard?
I think UMSL is in a good place with regards to being prepared. I'm not sure that anybody is ever totally prepared, but I think that we have good communication amongst our leadership team and with everybody that needs to, in essence, deal with a situation as it happens. So I feel good about our team. I hope that we are ready, and we are absolutely aware that there are a lot of different pernicious issues out there of which we need to keep on top of.
Tom, this must be the kind of thing that would keep someone like yourself and Kristin awake at night.
I never think that I'm on top of everything and that I have encountered everything. It is amazing what can happen, that you try to be as prepared as possible. And certainly we take it very seriously. When we went through all those budget cuts 3 years ago, the one area we did not touch was security or our police on campus. And in fact, we even increased the resources there. So it's something we take very seriously.
I think it's very effective being a part of the system myself. If ever there's an incident or something that is suspicious, my cell phone is telling me, be careful, something is going on out here.
Yes.
That's very important.
And we periodically have training. I mean, Kristin and I have participated with other leadership in the university with training, going through different kinds of potential scenarios, like an active shooter, for example.
Yeah. Kristin, you come into this system, was it May of 17? Is that correct?
That's correct.
Yeah. You come from someplace else. When you come into a new system like this, what do you look for? What do you see, and what action do you take? Say, gee, I think we could do this better, because old eyes, and forgive me, Tom, old eyes looking at it may not see the same thing you do.
I think it is interesting to come into a different situation because you do see things from different lens. And the way that I've described it is taking a look through a kaleidoscope and turning the kaleidoscope one click, and all those tiles fall into place in a different way. And so the strengths that this institution has may be the weaknesses of a previous institution, but then you can help problem solve what's going on the ground here at like the University of Missouri St. Louis, at your new institution.
What did you see when you came in and you thought maybe we can work on this?
Well, the reason I'm here is because the people were wonderful, and I loved our students. They were just very engaging and open, and that's the reason that I'm here. But if everything was, fantastically perfect, then there wouldn't be anything for Provost to do. So it is fun that there are things for me to do that I can work on with these, great people that we have, and do team building and do what's in the best interest of our students.
Well, what exactly does the Provost do?
That is a good question. I just had, just last week, I had pizza with the Provost, and the first question that the students asked me was, what on earth is a Provost? They came for the pizza. They had no idea what the Provost was. But the Provost oversees all of the academic arms of the institution. So I have the privilege of working with our deans and with our faculty to create good programming for our students and what they want. We also oversee the research arm and our student life arm, and the Provost gets to have the fun of the institution.
Tom, we've all been watching these past days what's been going on in Washington with the Kavanaugh hearings. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that it has done is really shone a light on one aspect of university culture that's not necessarily flattering. I would have to think that as an administrator, you probably don't want to hear too much of that kind of discussion.
Well, I mean, it is what it is. And I would say probably there's less of that opportunity on our campus, which is largely commuter. We still have about 1,300, 1,400 students that live on campus, and then another maybe 1,000 around the campus. But it is something that we take very seriously, and our Student Affairs Division is outstanding. And we get reports regularly from our police department of incidents that are happening, and we try to get on top of things immediately. But it is higher education, and when there are issues that happen, the administration has to take very fast and corrective action. You can't lay back and say, "Well, this will resolve itself." That doesn't happen.
Would you agree, Kristin, this is something that you don't like to see such a bright light shown on as it has been in recent days?
I guess I'm not I think it's okay to shine a bright light, because when you shine that light, then you can illustrate the problem and hopefully then correct it. We obviously need to have some of that correction, not only in higher education, but in our society. And I think then that light will be important.
Right. We have some questions coming in from our listeners. Dan writes on Twitter, he asks, what is UMSL's plan for all of its abandoned properties? Surrounding communities are thrilled to see new construction like the Optometry Center, but concerned about beloved buildings like the former Incarnate Word Convent, Alumni House, and fraternity homes on Natural Bridge.
Excellent question, and that's a concern to us as well. We are methodically looking at all these properties. Certainly, Normandy Hall, which is right next to Incarnate Word, is something that ultimately we want to either do something with it or take it down. Sometimes just simply taking it down, it takes more resources than you realize, and particularly if there's asbestos and other things. But, we are looking at the properties that are empty, and we're getting ideas from people what to do. I wish we could move more quickly on this, but we are taking it seriously.
Some of the things I've read recently, Kristin, would indicate that there's a lot of competition among colleges and universities for students, and this is causing a lot of money to be spent on facilities that maybe aren't totally necessary, giving some campuses a kind of a country club look, if you will. That's not going on at UMSL, but am I right in what I read or understand?
Well, I think, what you say, too, that there is some competition among institutions, and we have a decreasing demographic with regards to high school students. But again, getting back to what we had talked about previously, in St. Louis, we have a lot of people that have some college education but need more in order to attain a degree. And so we want to be focusing on those students, and I think that will be for the betterment of UMSL, but particularly for the betterment of St. Louis.
Speaking of competition, Tom, there was a list out yesterday, I guess it was, in which St. Louis was listed as number 2, I think, in the country in terms of a great spot for entrepreneurs. Is the entrepreneurial spirit in St. Louis competition for universities?
Well, there is competition, but I'd say that's one area where we see a lot of cooperation. I'll just give you an example, and that's the Cortex region. Cortex was founded by University of Missouri, St. Louis, Washington University, St. Louis University, and BJC, and partnering with the city and with the Missouri Botanical Garden, and it's just taken off. And that's definitely an example of institutions collaborating and cooperating on entrepreneurship. We each individually have programs in entrepreneurship, and we started basically an incubator in conjunction with Ameren there, which other institutions are participating in. In fact, not just here in St. Louis, but Missouri University of Science and Technology, University of Missouri at Columbia, and Kansas City are participating in this as well.
If you're going to be a successful entrepreneur, it's probably a good idea to be well educated. I suppose that goes without saying, right?
Well, that helps. I mean, everyone likes to, well, not everyone, but people point to Bill Gates as having not finished college and certainly a great entrepreneur. But yeah, we would say that your chances of being successful are going to be higher with an academic degree. One
thing, Kristin, I think many people don't fully understand or appreciate is that UMSL has a pretty good reputation as a research center. It's not often thought of in that light. What exactly is going on at the school?
Yeah, well, UMSL is one of the 4 public research universities in the state of Missouri. We are in Tier 1 and we have high research productivity, which puts us in the very top tier of all academic institutions across the nation. Our research, I would say, is very vibrant, and that's important not only for our students, but for our community and the nation, because we're generating new knowledge.
Well, I was about to ask, what difference does it make if a university or college is a research center?
Well, we liked the fact that our faculty are on the cutting edge of their disciplines. And that means they're not only teaching and imparting knowledge, but they're actually developing it. And actually, we have many programs on campus where not only graduate students but undergraduate students participate in the research projects, and that's part of the educational experience. So it gives you the complete experience when you have research and engagement tied in with what would be more traditional teaching.
We have more questions coming in via email and Twitter. And one writes here, I understand there's a new Chief Transformation Officer at the university. Is that the result of the new vision to transform lives?
Oh, transform lives. Well, actually, that is our mission statement, is to transform lives. And, I give credit to the Provost and her team for coming up with that one. Yeah, we have a Chief Transformation Officer. Yeah, the word had changed several times. That's Rick Bonyak. Rick Bonyak is our CFO, and he's our Vice Chancellor for Finance and Administration. And in that role, he's looking at how we can do things a bit more out of the box, how we can be more entrepreneurial with administration. He's working not just with our campus, but the other campuses, part-time in that role. And he's actually come up with a new way of approaching budgeting that's at a 5-year span as opposed to a 1-year span. So these creative ideas that he's developed here at UMSL, we're putting into place across the system.
Thinking out of the box has got to be important in today's fast-moving world, Kristin.
Oh, is that a rhetorical question or a statement?
Pretty much, yeah.
I agree with you, Don.
Okay. Let's take another question here. What's the situation with adjuncts who teach so many courses at universities, including UMSL? What's the situation these days? Are they well compensated and appreciated as they should be at UMSL? Mm-hmm. Are they unionizing? Kristin?
Yeah, I don't know about the question about unionizing, but I think adjuncts are an important part of our faculty role at the University of Missouri St. Louis, as they are across the nation. And you'll see that I think on average across the nation, sometimes up to 70% of classes are taught by adjuncts, particularly when you add in the community college rank. At UMSL, we have less than 50% of our courses are taught by adjuncts, and they are absolutely vital and important. I think we have a couple of different types of adjuncts. One that could be experts like you, Don, that could come in and adjunct for a course and talk about, about interviewing techniques or about journalism today in our society, and you would be absolutely most welcome. And we have other adjuncts that absolutely are making a living being an adjunct and focusing in a particular area.
Unionization, Tom, seems to be a growing trend in higher education. Is it a good thing or bad thing?
Well, it exists, and in many cases, I think it actually is good. Though on our campus, parts of the staff are unionized. There was some discussion about potential unionization of different areas of faculty, whether it's adjuncts or whether it was tenure track faculty. At this point in time, we're not. I think we're trying to be very mindful of how we treat our employees, and how do unions come about? Well, it's fair treatment of your employees, particularly from those that are in administration, and we work on that as hard as we can.
Another listener writes, exciting things are happening at UMSL, including the creation of new Community Innovation and Action Center. Can we hear more about the strategic plan for community engagement?
We are really excited about the creation of the Community Innovation and Action Center, which is actually an evolution of our Public Policy Research Center. And in fact, I think Don, that they're going to be housed here at UMSL at Grand Center so that we can provide that important access for our community partners. Yeah, so we are very excited. It really points to our mission, our community engagement mission. And we're excited to have them here.
But what exactly is it going to do?
Mm-hmm. They are going to what they do is they bring together our community partners and our nonprofit organizations so that they can have greater impact for our community. They, in essence, see the bigger picture on particular projects and areas of support that are needed, and they in essence, bring groups and people together to provide that necessary support.
One of the big hot-button issues in the country today, and certainly applies to colleges and universities, is the issue of gender equity, Tom. How is the University of Missouri St. Louis dealing with this issue?
Well, we do look at it, particularly in the area of salaries. We do look at that and try to make adjustments as necessary. If you actually look at our student body, we're about 60% women, 40% men. So just by definition, we have more women than men on campus within the student body. In terms of women in the faculty ranks, we actually look, relative to other institutions, we look pretty good. In terms of percentage of women that hold either tenured or tenure-track faculty positions. But it's something we take seriously. We have a Center for Gender Studies that keeps us on track.
We only have about a minute left or a little bit more. Kristin, I'll ask you the challenges as you see them moving forward.
I think the main challenges are within ourselves, in essence, being prepared for some of the changes that are already happening and will continue to happen within higher education. The challenge of making sure that we're not only serving our students and what they need, but our communities, because change is happening and we need to adapt.
Tom, same question to you with regard to challenges.
The challenges are not going to stop. I think the question is how can you respond to challenges and make the institution even stronger? So I think that's what we always try to look at. Is there a different direction we can go in to meet the challenge and then come out better at the end?
And that's what the strategic plan is all about, really.
That's what we're counting on, yes.
Okay. Well, I want to thank you both so much for being with us and talking about some of these issues. It's certainly one of the most important institutions in our community, and I thank you, Kristin Sobolik, for being with us, and Tom George, Chancellor at the University of Missouri St. Louis.
Thank you,
Don.
Great talking to you. This is St. Louis on the Air on St. Louis Public Radio, 90.7 KWMU.
Support comes from the Missouri Forest Products Association, committed to conservation and careful management of the state's forests to make them more resilient and better habitats for wildlife. ChooseWood.com.